All right, good morning, everyone. It's the top of the hour, so we can go ahead and get started today. I'm Kaylee Hansen, a pre-sale and business solutions consultant with SVA Consulting, and joining me today is Austin, our customer success manager. So we'll be walking through today's webinar. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started today. As we go through today's presentation, please feel free to ask any questions that come up. You can use the chat feature. Austin will be monitoring that. If it makes sense to kind of stop and ask those questions during the moment, we will. Otherwise, we'll have a little bit of a designated Q&A session at the end as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started with today's presentation. So today's presentation is all around some of the data analysis tools within Acumatica. So if you remember, I think it was about a year ago now at this time, we did a little bit of a data analysis series talking about some of the advanced tools within Acumatica, some of the more advanced features around tools like Power BI and Velixo as well. It sounded like we got some positive feedback there, so we thought we'd bring a little bit of this back and re-highlight some of those tools. So looking at today's agenda, we'll start by just going through a little bit of a component overview. So we'll walk through kind of three main areas today: generic inquiries within Acumatica, dashboards, and side panels. So three pretty robust tools that we like to leverage and obviously encourage all of our customers to leverage as well. So we'll just do a little bit of a component overview on what those are, kind of what to expect on that end. Then we'll just talk about Power BI primarily as a more advanced data analysis tool and how we can bring some of those Power BI tools and dashboards into Acumatica as well. Then we'll get into the live demos. This will hopefully be the fun part for everyone. We'll walk through some scenarios in terms of editing a generic inquiry, adding some widgets to a dashboard, as well as adding in a side panel. And then we'll see some of the Power BI integration on the dashboarding side as well. And then we'll just wrap up with a Q&A. Any questions that come up, we'll kind of address those and then some next steps as well. So with that, I'll hop right in. So first, we'll just take a look at recapping some of these data analysis tools. So if you're new to Acumatica or if you've been on it for a while, these terms may be pretty familiar to you, but we just like to reorient you guys around these and kind of what to expect for each one. So the first one is a generic inquiry. So a generic inquiry in Acumatica is a filterable and configurable list view of data from that Acumatica database. And really what this does is there's pretty robust tools in terms of ad hoc reporting. We'll see that come into play today as we look within the live demo portion. Similar to some sort of Excel list of data, we'll see some of those filtering capabilities as well. And then really the generic inquiries become a powerful tool that can serve as the basis for some pivot tables, the side panels that we'll see today, business events, so some of the automation tools, as well as things that feed those dashboards. The next are the dashboards. So everyone probably is aware what a dashboard is, but essentially it's just a panel view of data made up of different widgets. So again, we'll add a new widget to a dashboard today, kind of walk you through some of that process. You can have multiple different sources. So a majority of those we'll be familiar with will be from Acumatica data, but then we'll also see how we could pull in something like a Power BI dashboard that maybe has some external data sources as well into Acumatica dashboards, and really just give you guys as the users in Acumatica easy access to the data that's important to you for everyday tasks, trends, etc. And then lastly, we'll be highlighting some of the side panel views. So you've likely seen these throughout Acumatica as well. So we'll dive into some of those, and really what those are is a panel view of data that essentially provide additional data visibility into things like dashboards, reports, generic inquiries, etc., and then can have additional drill down for some of those next steps or looking at additional data from that side panel itself as well. So we'll kind of walk through all of those today. I will say all of these you're probably familiar with because there's a lot of out-of-the-box inquiries, dashboards, and side panels that come with Acumatica. But then the component that we'll really dive into today is understanding that all of those can easily be personalized and tailored towards your guys' needs as well. So those will be some of the scenarios we'll walk through to tailor some of those different views, again, to be more relevant to some of the data that might make sense for your organization. All right, and then the last one that we'll highlight today, Acumatica obviously has native reporting, native dashboarding, but if you want more advanced data analysis tools, potentially pulling from multiple different sources, including Acumatica data, potentially external data as well. Power BI is a pretty popular tool. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, but that's kind of one that we'll be highlighting today during the demonstration. And really what it allows is there's a native integration between Acumatica and Power BI. So you can transform your data into kind of interactive real-time dashboards and reports, and then it can seamlessly connect into Power BI for that kind of advanced data analysis and visualization as well. So we do have a little bit of an example today. We'll walk through that, walk through what the differences there look like in terms of some of those Power BI dashboards, and then we'll pull that into Acumatica as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to exit out of here and we'll get into Acumatica, and we'll spend kind of the majority of today's session walking through some different scenarios to personalize these different views. So to start, we'll kind of just reorient around some of these components within Acumatica. So if I just kind of go into my sales order screen to start, there's a lot of different generic inquiries, like I said, that come out of the box. So we'll kind of start with the generic inquiry side. And if I just go into my sales orders, for example, anything in Acumatica that looks like this list view of data is what we would consider that generic inquiry view. And so there's a couple of different features that we want to kind of go highlight today. And so the first will be, once we're in these views, all of this is kind of sortable, filterable, movable. And so if I wanted to, for example, drag and drop different columns in any of these views, I could do so. So if I wanted the status maybe over here, I could go ahead, drag and drop it. If I just wanted to see, anything where the date is, maybe between your start to your end, I can start to trim that data as well. So some of these can be dynamic filters, meaning, I just do year start, year end. Anything that falls within that list that meets that criteria would dynamically kind of fall within that inquiry view as well. Of course, can start to sort and filter by things like the order totals. If I just wanted to see, anything greater than 5,000, I can start to trim that further as well. So in this case, the advantage of these kind of inquiry views within Acumatica is you can start to trim your data and filter it based on what you're looking for. So if you're doing some kind of ad hoc reporting and I just want to see, okay, how many orders have I had, this year that are over $5,000? In this case, hopefully, maybe people have some more orders in their system throughout the year than I do in my demo site. But it allows me to trim that data and find what I need pretty quickly. And you'll see this across the system. So this is obviously the sales order inquiry view, that any of these list views of data can have those sorts, those filters, etc. And then what I can do from here is I can create these kind of personalized views based on the data. So anything that I start to trim and filter by, I can press this save icon, and then I can save this view and essentially come back to it. So if I just wanted to see, this year's orders over 5,000. I can go ahead, create a name for it. And then any of these changes that I've made so far on the inquiries themselves are just personal to me. So if Austin came in to the system, he wouldn't see all the million changes that I'm making on a daily basis, which is probably a good thing for Austin. But if I did have specific views that I wanted to share with people on my team, if I do have the correct rights to do so, I could share this configuration. And then as Austin, for example, logs into the environment, he could have this view as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that. And then we'll see it's added at the top here. So I can go back to all of my records. If I just go, all the way back, drill back down into it, anytime I come back to that screen, I now have that saved view. Anything that falls within that will fall within that view as well. So I'll kind of pause there for a second. It looks like there may have been a chat come in that we can kind of address at this time.
Yeah.
Just
So the question around a CRM integration. So I'm getting confirmation right now.
okay, perfect. Thank you, Austin.
Yeah,
All
no.
right. Okay, perfect. So we can kind of drag and drop different areas on these inquiry views, save those filtered views, share them if we have rights to. And then where it gets a little bit more personalized is where I can add fields to these. So if I look at this little file icon within any of my generic inquiry views, what it's going to show me first is any field that is natively available to me. So we talked about the fact that there's kind of pre-built inquiries within Acumatica. And within each one, there's available columns that are kind of there for you already. So you'll see I don't have all of them on my specific view, but if I wanted to pull some over, I could. So for example, if it really mattered to me to see, I want to see which branch these orders came from, for example, because maybe I have access to multiple branches in the system. I could go ahead, pull that over, kind of sort it around this way as well. Or if I want to see, what's that sales order description? Let's bring that over as well. I can kind of do so as well. Or I could take things off. So if I don't need to see, who this default salesperson is on there, I can bring those over, press save, and then we'll see how that starts to trim a bit. It looks like maybe my team's not leveraging the description field as much. So if I wanted to take that one back off, same thing, I can go to that file cabinet and just bring columns on and off that are available to me at this point. And again, that just allows me to see what's important to me. Maybe other users in my system, again, care about different areas within, these various views. So then they could add different ones. And again, I'll be personal to them as well. So likely these are tools that you're hopefully using kind of on a daily basis. Again, really nice for some of that ad hoc reporting. And then you can trim your data, personalize it, and kind of save those views to come back to on a more consistent basis as well. So next, what we'll do is kind of just walk through a brief highlight of some of the dashboards, and then we'll get into the personalization aspect for both the inquiry views and the dashboard views. So to start, as we said, similar to the inquiries, similar to some of the side panels that we'll see in a moment as well, Acumatica comes with different out-of-the-box dashboards. So one popular view I have just as my home screen is this customer view dashboard. So this is kind of more important for some of the sales side. So what this specific dashboard allows is kind of this 360-degree view of the customers within my organization. So in this case, I can see things like the orders to ship, any late orders that I have. Looks like I have an alarming color there, meaning I want to kind of get on top of that at this point. Areas related to the CRM side, so open opportunities, some accounts receivable information, support, etc. And really with these dashboards, you can kind of see, the different types of data that can begin to be displayed. So different KPI stacks, different charts, different tables, etc. And as we see kind of an example of building out a widget, we'll also see that all of those different inquiry views that we had help to feed those dashboards. So the more I kind of tailor those views, the more I can begin to build out some of these dashboard views easier. So for example, if I had different filters created on my inquiries, I can use those as the basis for these dashboard widgets as well. So we'll see some of that come into play, but just wanted to kind of reorient you guys around some of these dashboard views. And then just to get an idea for some of the different types of dashboards we have, typically they're more specific to different areas or different roles in the organization. So we'll have different types of finance dashboards separate from, manufacturing dashboards or CRM dashboards, for example. So we'll be primarily working with this customer view dashboard today. And then within each dashboard as well, there's areas that we can add, such as parameters. So in this case, I have a customer parameter on this specific dashboard view to allow me to filter by specific customer. And once I do, it's going to trim and update all of that data on the dashboard view to be reflective of just that customer. Again, if I kind of take that filter off, it will update. And then now I'm seeing that kind of full view in this specific dashboard across the organization. A couple other things to highlight. Again, as most of you know at this point, everything on the dashboard is drillable. So if I want to drill down into these orders to ship, I can. And then it's all real time as well. So all of this is real time data drilling down into this specific dashboard view. And then once I do, you'll see it's taking me to, again, another inquiry view. So then I have all of those same areas that I had before in terms of dragging and dropping, filtering this data down further, et cetera. So just a little bit of a high level recap around some of those tools before we dive into the personalization aspect. So now we'll start to personalize some of these. So I'm going to work primarily in my sales order invoices inquiry view, and we'll give some different kind of use cases for how we can start to kind of tailor these views. All right, so here's my specific invoice or invoice inquiry. And so let's say I'm running a promotion within the organization. Maybe it's a Memorial Day sale, for example. We'll use the holiday that just passed. So maybe I have 15% off or a certain percent off on all my items. And now I'm trying to see, okay, how much are we actually maybe losing on that discount? So in this case, I might want to customize this specific view to include, a column here that's just showing me for each individual invoice, what's that percent of that discount or what's that discount amount. So any of these specific inquiry views, if you have the correct rights to start to customize these can all be customized and tailored further. So we start to see a little bit of that aspect through this file cabinet where we can add and remove columns. But if there's additional columns that we want to display that aren't in this area, for example, that's when we start to use this customization tool. So I'll go ahead, go to this customization, and then what I'll do is click this Edit Generic Inquiry button. And again, if you don't have this in your system today, most likely as a specific user, you don't have the correct access rights. So typically not everyone in the organization would have rights to kind of customize these inquiry views. But if you do, then this is where we start to kind of build that. And before I kind of continue, it looks like we have a couple more chats. I think I saw one on creating a new dashboard, so we will get there. So just be patient on that and we'll kind of touch on that in a bit.
Perfect. Thank you, Kaylee.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So here's my generic inquiry kind of builder. So this is where I can start to customize this as well. So we'll see a couple of areas just in terms of some of the data sources. So this is where Acumatica kind of has these, again, pre-built where they can add together related tables. And then we can start to see how those tables begin to join itself. So if there was additional tables that I wanted to add for displaying additional data within these views, I could do so here. And Acumatica can help kind of walk through that. But this is likely where you want some sort of person on your team with some background in these types of areas in terms of, these data relations and how to join those together to start to build this. Again, not everyone has access in this and probably not everyone should. But if the right people do, this can for sure be a very powerful tool. So I'm going to work with kind of the data that is already joined together. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of add additional areas within this results grid specifically. So if I go into my results grid, what this is looking at is essentially, this is the list of all of those available columns that we saw in that inquiry view. So whether it was on my specific view or within that filing cabinet on the left-hand side, these are all of the data fields that I can specifically choose from, and I can see within that view and add it on. So in this case, I want to specifically add in, the total for my discount on each line item within a specific sales order, or in this case, within that invoice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add a new row. And this will be from my AR invoice. And then we'll see all of the fields that I could add to this view. In this case, I know I want to add in this specific discount. So I'll add in my line discount total. So I'll save that. Once I do, we have that added in. And then what I'll do here is I'll just publish it to the UI. So any changes I made, I'll republish it. And now this means that it's going to go ahead and make sure those changes are published for users within the system as well. So now that said, the operation has completed. I can kind of view the inquiry here. Otherwise, I can go back, drill down into my invoices. And now we'll see on the right-hand side, that new column popped up. So now I can see that line discount total. And it looks like some people were leveraging my discounts recently within the last couple of days here. So that's kind of one aspect, obviously one minor example of adding those in. But again, this customization tool for these generic inquiries can be very powerful in terms of just joining some of that data and adding those kind of right on that specific inquiry screen that you want to see as well. All right, so I'll go back to my inquiry view. We saw that line discount added. And so now that I've added it to the inquiry view, I'm going to use this as a basis for building my dashboard. So now I want, okay, maybe within my dashboard view, I just want to see a specific widget that's saying, what is the total, line discount amount or discounted amount that I'm having on orders, maybe this year or for a specific time frame. So what I'll do is I'm going to use that information that I just added on this inquiry view into my dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead, go back into my customer view dashboard. And then this is where I'll start to tailor the dashboard. So I know the question came out in terms of creating a brand new dashboard. We'll kind of get there next. But for now, we'll start just by editing a previous one. So again, this is one that was out of the box, but I want to add some stuff to it. I want to tailor it a little bit. So this is where I can use the dashboard design tool to do that. So if I just go to this design tool at the top, similar to that customization tool on the inquiry, not everyone in the organization likely has access to this, but if they're, if they do, this can also become a pretty powerful tool. So I'll click this design tool. And then what this allows me to do is I can start to edit any previous widget within my dashboard, or I can add new ones. So in this case, if I just wanted to edit, the late orders, we don't need that alarm level to be at 10. We want it to be at, maybe 40 because we have a pretty high, a lot of orders coming in, for example. And so here I can start to change different parameters that are on those specific widgets. So for a KPI specifically, there's things like, okay, what is the normal color? What is it, an alarming color versus a warning color? I can go ahead and finish that. And then we'll see those changes reflected as well. Same thing goes for any of these types of views. If I wanted to change, for example, the type of chart it is, I could go ahead, configure this, maybe change this type of chart if I wanted to. So instead of a donut, let's do a column chart, and we can kind of press OK. So there we'll start to see some of those changes reflected as well. So again, the design tool will let you edit any existing widgets, which we just walked through, or we can add a new one. So I'll kind of add it in this little blank spot up here. And then we'll start to see the different types of widgets that you can create within Acumatica itself. So charts are pretty self-explanatory, but we'll see the different types of charts that you can add, different data tables. We'll see kind of an embedded page example as well. And you can start to tailor this as well. So if we want to add different headers for things like sales orders versus accounts receivable, for example, we can do so as well. Links, Power BI tiles. So we'll get to the Power BI elements as well. And so different types of widgets, and really this design tool helps walk through pretty intuitively how to start to add these to the dashboard. So it is kind of going back to Acumatica's low code, no code theme of being able to, as a user, again, with the correct rights within the company, being able to kind of walk through these activities without probably a lot of technical background or experience or developer work, for example. So in this case, we'll kind of keep this example easy, but what we'll do is just create a KPI. So I want to see, maybe a tile view of the total discounts that that customers have used this year, for example. So this is where it's going to start to walk through what do I have to do to create this specific dashboard widget. So here I can see it's wanting me to select a specific inquiry screen. So those are the inquiry views that we saw earlier. And this is giving me a lookup to any of those. So whether they were existing within the system, whether I kind of tailored those or created brand new ones as well. That's where this kind of sits to select from. So I know I just edited that invoices screen. So I'm going to go ahead, select that invoice inquiry, and then I can go ahead and walk through some of these other parameters. So now it's pulling data from that specific screen. And next I can start to build some different filters as well. First, I'll just pull in this next field to aggregate. And in this case, that line discounts, which is that field or column rather that I added on that inquiry just a moment ago, that's now showing up for me. So if I did this about 5 minutes ago, this wouldn't show up as a field that I could kind of pull into my dashboard. But since I added it to that inquiry view, now I'm able to pull that into my dashboard. So that's the field that I want to focus on. I want to just sum all of those. And then here I can start to say, okay, what's an alarming color versus a normal color? Maybe my alarming color goes around 60,000. If people are spending, my discount is more than that, maybe it gets a little bit alarming in terms of, oh, well, maybe we're starting to lose a little bit of money now. And then I can change these colors as well. So once it gets above a certain amount, we'll make that red, that warning color will stay yellow. And for now, we'll keep that kind of at that teal color. So I can be done here. I will also just add a filter setting. So in this case, I don't want to look at all discounts that have ever been used, but instead, I just want to look at, maybe anything that was within the last month, because this is maybe where my discount kind of started. And then I can go ahead and press OK. And then I can give this a caption as well. So I can say this month's total discounts. And I can press finish. And then I can get out of this design tool. And now it's showing me, okay, that 55,000, I can drill down into that as well. And then we'll see just for that month, those 3 different orders or invoices that made up that specific amount in this case. All right. It's kind of a neat tool there. All of that done pretty quickly. I think if we weren't talking through it, it would have been a little bit quicker as well. But you can start to see how you can start to build those different views and those personalized views of your data pretty quickly within Acumatica, again, through some of that low code, no code framework as well. All right, so now, oops, I gave you guys a sneak peek into the Power BI dashboard. So now I'll go back into my inquiry view. And we'll kind of wrap up on some of the Acumatica side with these side panel views. So just to orient you guys again to side panels, again, Acumatica has some out-of-the-box ones, but these, anytime there's this little icon that lights up on the right-hand side, that's an indicator that that's a side panel. So what I can do is drill down into those side panel views. And as we kind of saw on that initial slide, this just gives an additional kind of drill down into my data without having to navigate directly into it. So in this case, I have a specific side panel view that's pointing to the invoices. And so without drilling down into that invoice itself, I can see, okay, there's this specific invoice. Here's the item that made up it, and kind of scroll as well if I wanted to see any discounts on this side or addresses, whatever those areas may be that are in that other side, so that invoice specifically. I can start to drill down directly through this screen. And so the advantage of this, again, visibility into additional information without drilling down. But then as I toggle between this left-hand side, that right-hand side will update as well. So now we'll see as I toggle down here, my customer is changing, that invoice is changing. So all of it is pretty dynamic in terms of I can filter through this left-hand side and that right-hand side will correspond and update accordingly. And then there's different types of views as well. So if I wanted to see, this receivables dashboard, for example, this is more of a dashboard side panel, whereas the last one was more of that entity drill down. I could have another kind of inquiry view if I wanted to. And so there's different types of side panels that we can display as well. So if I just scroll through here, that's where we'll see those start to update as well. So pretty powerful tool here. And now if I want to add a specific side panel, I can go ahead and go back to my customizations tool, and I'll edit this generic inquiry again. And in this case, I'm going to go to the far right in the navigation. And so I'll see everything that I have already in terms of those side panel views. But now I'm going to go ahead and add in one more.
And
So in this case, yeah,
if
go ahead.
if a user does not see that side panel option, is that an issue of user permissions, or might it be a sign that they're on a different version of Acumatica?
Yeah, so it could be a little bit of both, and I may also have some more side panel views in my environment, just based on what we've built out. So Acumatica does typically with each new release roll out additional side panels, so it may have to do with the specific edition you're on. My view may have additional side panels that Acumatica doesn't have natively because we've built those on, or it could have to do with the user security as well. So if you have specific questions on that, I'd see first if other people in the organization have access to them. And then if so, we can definitely help out there in terms of navigating if there's some native ones that you aren't seeing and why that might be.
Awesome. Okay. And then one other thing, once you're done with the generic inquiry screen, Kaylee, if you could give a brief refresher on how to create or where to go to create a new dashboard as opposed to editing an existing one.
Yep.
A refresher.
Yeah, perfect. I'll do that right after this when we show the Power BI dashboard.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add in a specific side panel. And so what I'm going to do here is it's just going to ask me what I want to link here. So in this case, I'm going to do kind of a printed form of my invoice that I want to show within this side panel view. So I'm going to search through, I know the screen name in this case. I could also search by the name. There's this invoice and memos. And then here, instead of keeping it in the same tab, this is where I'll say, I want this to be a side panel view. And now I can go ahead, add in these different parameters here. So in this case, I want this document type to be my sales order invoice. And then here, we'll base this off of this invoice reference number. So again, my sales order invoice reference number. And then I can create little tiles here. So if I wanted to say, here's maybe that document, I can name this as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. We'll publish this to the UI. So we saw earlier that results grid. Now the navigation will let us add in specific side panel views just based on what we built out. And now if I go ahead, view this inquiry, now I'll see that invoice document added at the bottom here. And then it's adding in just visibility into, in this case, my invoice form. Again, as I toggle on the left-hand side, that right-hand side will begin to update as well. All right, so that's a bit about the side panels. Now it sounds like this was the anticipated part in terms of how would I add a new dashboard. So I'll kind of show that through an example of if I wanted to add in some of the Power BI elements to it. But if I go to my dashboards, it's under my customization menu item. But if I go into dashboards itself, this is where I can start to maintain some of that. So I do have access to see, okay, what are all the dashboards that I have? I could go ahead, drill down into those as well. But in this case, I'm just going to add a brand new one. So now I'm going to rename this, sales analysis Power BI. And then, so that's going to be the name for my specific dashboard. And then it's going to ask me which role do you want to access this. So this is just a lookup into the different user roles within Acumatica. So if you thought, this is specific to a sales rep or a marketing manager or whatever the case may be, you can kind of select that, and then that's the role that will inherit visibility into this dashboard. In this case, I'll just make this admin rights. We'll save this. We'll publish this to the UI. And then it's going to ask me, once I publish it, where do you want it showing up? So in this case, this is the workspace or my menu structure or module rather that I want it added into. And then this will be the categories underneath it. So in this case, I'll add it to my data views dashboard or data views workspace rather. If I wanted to add it to, the dashboards workspace specifically, I could do so as well. And then here is just my category. We'll keep it at dashboards for now. And then it's assigning this a specific screen ID. So now we'll go ahead and click publish. And as you may expect, once I do so, it's going to be blank. I haven't added anything on it yet. So it's just a blank page essentially, which is a dashboard. But this is where I can go ahead and design it. So now it's starting from scratch. I could add in new widgets, kind of build it from scratch. Based on, whatever parameters, whatever widgets that I want to add in. In this case, I'm going to add in my Power BI dashboard and kind of make that the full screen of this. So we'll walk through that example, but just know that any of those dashboards that you saw earlier, or any of those widgets rather, those are all available to kind of build again from the ground up to a new dashboard. We'll also say that we can copy existing ones and then again build up from those, or in this case, from scratch. So we'll wrap up with the Power BI dashboard view. So this is just a specific Power BI dashboard that's built out directly within Power BI. So now I'm not in Acumatica, but you'll start to see what this looks like. So a different look and feel, pulling not only from some of the data within Acumatica, but in this case, some additional data. So customer surveys, for example, those are living outside of Acumatica, but being pulled and joined together with some of the data through a tool like Power BI. I can kind of drill down and see different parameters based on toggling things on and off. And this is my baker example. But here is where it was all built within Power BI, but now I want it to live within Acumatica. So for my users, for example, to see these dashboards, I don't want them to have to log into Power BI, but rather see them directly through Acumatica. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead. In this case, I'll just use this embedded page. So what I'm going to do from Power BI, we're just going to go ahead and embed this. I'll copy this link here, and then we're going to use this for the basis of this dashboard as well. So you'll see that within these widgets, I could add a specific Power BI tile. So I could kind of walk through that scenario. In this case, I'll do what's called an embedded page widget, since I want kind of that full workspace within Power BI that I had built. With different tabs, et cetera, to pull in here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in, and then this will just be sales analysis, we'll call this. We'll press finish. And now it's pulling in my specific view from within Power BI. And so now I can kind of resize it. You'll see me struggle with my mouse capabilities for a second. But here I can go ahead, make this full screen if I wanted to, again, drag and drop these around, personalize it to what I want. And I'll get out of that design tool. And now we'll see it's directly within Acumatica. So there's those different tabs that we saw earlier. That's pulling dynamically. I can kind of update those and see those toggle on and off. My data kind of trim itself in a different type of view than within Acumatica directly. Still all within Acumatica in terms of where I see that data. So I know that's a little bit more on the advanced data analysis side, but there is a tight integration between those two tools, as you just saw, to pull in those types of dashboards into Acumatica as well. All right, so that's kind of all we had planned for today. So I think with that, what I'll do is transition back into our slides, and then we'll get into kind of a wrap up and Q&A. I think there were some questions that floated in, not sure if they all got covered or not. So maybe Austin, I'll hand it over to you to kind of walk through any open questions we may have.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a question that was sparked by the initial topic of today's conversation around integrations with different CRM providers. So the high-level overview that I'll share for the benefit of everybody is there are native CRM functionalities that are available with the CRM module within Acumatica. However, there are a number of ISV solutions that are available within the Acumatica marketplace that may provide some more industry-specific needs. So if you do have any questions in regards to solutions, feel free to reach out. As you see here on Kaylee's screen, we have a few different ways of getting in contact with us. So feel free to reach out at any time. We're happy to have a discussion and explore options with you so that we identify a solution that truly does meet your need. And then the other main question was around the creation of a new dashboard as opposed to editing existing ones, which I think you adequately covered, Kaylee. So thank you for that. And I think that sums up the nature of the questions for today. What you'll see here on Kaylee's screen, as I alluded to, is multiple ways of getting a hold of us. So we do have our emails provided there. You can also feel free to reach out to me or Kaylee directly, and we're happy to have discussions specific to your use case based on what you saw here today or related to other topics. We do have a reminder here as well for the next webinar, which is scheduled for June 26th. So please mark your calendars. And as a reminder, all of our previous webinars are available for viewing at your leisure on our YouTube channel. If you ever have questions about accessing that or encounter any issues, feel free to reach out. We're happy to send you direct links if helpful. And then finally, you'll see that there is a reminder of the Acumatica community portal with the link provided there on the right-hand side of your screen. A great resource for crowdsourcing of information that you may find helpful.
Awesome. Well, and no other questions. I think we can hop off early. If you guys have a minute and are interested in dropping over ideas for different topics you guys want to see, we always are interested in hearing your feedback. If this was something you liked, definitely let us know. And any other topics that you guys are interested in seeing, we definitely be interested in hearing as well. But other than that, thank you guys all for your time today. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. Thank you.